I want to read another line from the National Security Strategy and get your take on it. This is what it says. President Trump's foreign policy is pragmatic without being pragmatist, realistic without being realist, principled without being idealistic, muscular without being hawkish, and restrained without being dovish. It is not grounded in traditional political ideology. It is motivated above all by what works for America, or in two words, America first. Based on the contents of what's inside there, do you agree? Do you think that this is an America first strategy?
Points to the authors for political prose and saucy rhetoric. Right? I mean, that's kind of fun to read and hear, but we need the full hour. You might have to invite me back to parse that down. Just a few quick comments. I've never really liked the America First slogan. It's not because I'm some evil globalist, but because it's if one spends about 5 minutes on responsible websites, you'll find that there's some pretty ugly roots to that saying going back in the 20th century that I'm not sure I want to associate myself with. That doesn't mean that any government in Washington shouldn't put our country first. Of course you should. The federal government is exercising a fiduciary responsibility. What does that mean? Fancy word. It's not something you own. You're borrowing power from the American people and exercising on their behalf. So if you're going to be in a representative government, exercising power that is not yours, that is vested in the people per our Constitution, you better put their interests first. So that's obvious. But here's the problem with the American First approach as it's often been played out in practice, and that is it dismisses or misunderstands the values of our allies and partners. And it goes back to an isolationist type view often that thinks that we can defend our core interest at the water's edge. And both of those are wrong. If you don't believe me, look at 9/11. What happened over there hurt us here. If you don't believe me, look at COVID. What happened over there hurt us here. We have to go over there to defend ourselves here. That doesn't mean you start wars you don't need to start, Venezuela. It doesn't mean you send 170,000 troops to Iraq. Okay, it's not an argument for that. Yes, we can learn lessons and do it better like we have with the ISIS caliphate. But America First in practice has often undervalued allies and partners when we've needed them most. I was arguing earlier that I was really disappointed that we didn't see any discussion in the national security strategy, the new one, about cooperation among our adversaries. Well, if in our center, we've documented more than 800 instances of cooperation across 5 security cooperation categories just since 2019 between China, Russia, Iran, and North Korea. So you're like, well, that sounds impressive. What do I do with that? What you do with that is you understand that our enemies understand the value of partners. We should too. And who are among our best allies and partners, are most capable, prosperous, capable, and committed? It's Europeans. So, yeah, I got a beef with German defense spending. Why the heck have they taken so long to spend 2% on GDP? I got a beef with, hey, France, thank you for Yorktown. We helped you a bit in World War I and World War II, but come on, can you step up to the plate here and there? I can criticize all day long, but there's a right and wrong way to criticize your friends. Like after October 7th, you don't kick Israel when it's down and after the worst single day slaughter of Jews since the Holocaust. You don't do that. You got criticisms, you share them privately. So there's a right way and a wrong way. And when you threaten to not honor NATO in Article 5 because you want the Europeans to spend more in defense, you invite the very thing the alliance was created to avoid, and that is Russian aggression. So laudable objectives in many cases, but misguided means to implement or pursue those objectives often, unfortunately.
Brad, I feel really lucky because I've